Let me start by asking you a simple question. How often do you feel like your mind is running a marathon it never signed up for? Thoughts racing, worries piling up, and a constant hum of stress that never seems to quiet down. I've been there, so many times in fact, that I used to think it was normal. But it's not. It's not normal to feel like you're drowning in your own thoughts. And more importantly, it's not necessary. You see, life throws curveballs at us all the time. Deadlines, relationships, health issues, financial struggles, the list goes on. And while we can't control the chaos outside, we can control how we respond to it. That's the secret I've learned over the years. It wasn't easy, and it definitely didn't happen overnight, but learning to calm my mind has been one of the most transformative changes in my life. And I'm here to share what I've learned because I know this. If I could find peace amidst the noise, so can you. I want to be honest with you. This isn't about eliminating stress entirely or becoming some Zen-like master who never feels overwhelmed. That's not realistic, and frankly, it's not the goal. The goal is to create space in your mind, room to breathe, to think clearly, to feel steady even when life shakes you. It's about building a kind of inner stillness that helps you navigate challenges without being consumed by them. For a long time, I thought the answer to mental peace was out there somewhere. A new book, a better job, a different set of circumstances. But the truth is, it starts inside. Peace doesn't depend on things going perfectly. It depends on how you approach the imperfections. And that's what we're going to focus on today, building the kind of mindset that isn't at the mercy of life's ups and downs. I've had moments where I felt completely stuck, overwhelmed by thoughts I couldn't seem to control. Maybe you've felt that too. Those times when no matter how much you try to push through, your mind feels like a storm you can't escape. But here's what I've come to realize. The storm isn't permanent. It can settle. You just need the right tools to guide it toward calm. What I'm about to share with you are strategies that have worked for me. Not just concepts from philosophy books, but practical, real-life methods I've leaned on when I needed them most. These are tools you can start using today, no matter where you're starting from. They've helped me move from feeling overwhelmed to feeling grounded, from overthinking everything to focusing on what really matters. This isn't about quick fixes or temporary relief. It's about creating lasting change in the way you think and feel. Because when your mind is calm, everything else becomes clearer. You make better decisions. You show up more fully in your relationships. And most importantly, you start to feel at peace with yourself. So let's get started, because I know that peace is within your reach, and it's closer than you think. When I first started trying to calm my mind, there was one harsh truth I couldn't escape. So much of my stress came from fighting battles I could never win. I'd get caught up worrying about things far beyond my control, replaying situations in my head, thinking, if only this had gone differently, or why does it have to be this way? That resistance, the constant push against reality, was exhausting. It drained my energy, clouded my thinking, and left me feeling stuck. But here's what I learned. The harder you resist reality, the harder it pushes back. It wasn't until I embraced what the Stoics call radical acceptance that things began to shift. And when I say embraced, I don't mean giving up or letting life steamroll over me. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring or trying. It means you stop wasting energy on things you can't change. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca said, "The fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." That quote hit me hard the first time I read it. It's like trying to hold onto a rope being pulled from your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it burns. But if you let go, the pain stops. I realized that so much of the turmoil in my mind wasn't from what was happening. It was from my refusal to accept it. Take a simple example, traffic. I used to get so worked up sitting in a jam, blaming everything from poor city planning to the driver who cut me off. But here's the thing. No amount of frustration was going to part the sea of cars ahead of me. What I could control, though, was my response. Could I listen to something uplifting, take a deep breath, or just be patient with myself? Yes. That shift, redirecting my focus from what I couldn't change to what I could, made all the difference. This practice goes far beyond traffic. It applies to relationships, work, health, and every corner of life. When a friendship ended unexpectedly, I felt like I had to fix it, to force something that wasn't meant to be. But forcing only brought more hurt. It wasn't until I stepped back and accepted that the relationship had run its course that I began to feel peace again. Letting go didn't mean I didn't care. It meant I cared enough about my own well-being to stop resisting reality. The power of this mindset lies in its clarity. When you stop fighting the unchangeable, you create space for what truly matters. I started asking myself a simple question whenever I faced a challenge. Is this something I can control? If the answer was yes, I focused my energy there. If it wasn't, I learned to let it go. That letting go wasn't easy at first. It felt unnatural, even scary. But over time, it became a source of strength. The mental freedom that comes from not clinging to what's beyond your control is unlike anything else. What I've discovered is that acceptance is not about surrendering to defeat. It's about finding the courage to face life as it is, and then deciding what to do with it. There's so much peace in that clarity, and it's something I wish I'd embraced sooner. The world may not always be kind, but your mind doesn't have to be a battlefield. When I began to embrace acceptance, something surprising happened. I started noticing how much time I spent trapped in moments that weren't even real anymore. My thoughts would drift back to things I couldn't undo or forward to scenarios that hadn't even happened. It was exhausting, living everywhere but the present. Even as I learned to let go of what I couldn't control, my mind still found ways to pull me into its endless loops of worry and regret. That's when I realized acceptance is the first step, but the real peace comes from learning to live fully in the now. The present is all we truly have, yet it's the hardest place to stay. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Those words hold so much power because the mind, left unchecked, will wander into places that only steal your peace. Think about it. How often do you find yourself replaying old conversations, wishing you'd said something different? Or fast-forwarding into the future, worrying about things that may never happen? I've done it countless times, and every single time it left me feeling drained. Mindfulness changed everything for me. It's about anchoring yourself in what's happening right here, right now. When you focus on the present moment, it's like hitting the pause button on the chaos in your head. You're no longer chasing after the past or fearing the future. You're just here. And in that space, you can breathe. I started practicing mindfulness in the simplest ways. One of the first things I tried was focusing on my breath. At first, it felt almost silly. How could something so basic do anything? But when I sat quietly and paid attention to each inhale and exhale, I noticed something remarkable. My mind began to settle. It wasn't instant, and it wasn't perfect. Thoughts still wandered in, but the act of gently bringing my focus back to my breath gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in a long time. Another practice that helped me was paying attention to my senses. When I found my mind spiraling, I'd stop and focus on what I could see, hear, or feel. The texture of a surface under my hand, the sound of birds outside, the colors in the sky. These small details grounded me. They reminded me that life is happening now, not in the stories my mind was spinning. What's amazing about mindfulness is that it doesn't require any special tools or time-consuming routines. You can practice it while washing dishes, walking, or even during a conversation. It's about being fully present in whatever you're doing. I've noticed that when I truly focus on the person in front of me, listening without distraction, my relationships feel deeper and more connected. Mindfulness isn't about silencing your thoughts. It's about not letting them control you. It's choosing to engage with the world as it is right now, rather than the version of it your mind creates. And when you make that choice, over and over, something shifts. The noise quiets. The weight lifts. You find yourself appreciating moments you might have missed before, and in that appreciation, peace takes root. This practice has become a foundation for me. It's not about being perfect at it, no one is, but about returning to it again and again. Because every time you do, you reclaim a little more of the present. And the present is where life really happens. As I leaned into the practice of mindfulness, I started noticing something else, how deeply I clung to people, outcomes, and possessions. Even in moments of peace, there was a quiet fear beneath the surface, whispering, "What if I lose this?" That fear often led to overthinking, stress, and a need to control things that weren't mine to control. It was exhausting. That's when I realized, being present isn't enough if you're still gripping tightly to what's around you. True calm requires letting go, not of love or care, but of attachment. This is where emotional detachment comes in, and let me tell you, it's not about shutting yourself off or caring less. It's about loving deeply while holding things lightly. At first, this idea felt contradictory. How could I care about something or someone and not fear losing them? But Stoicism teaches us that nothing in life is permanent, and peace comes when we accept that reality. Epictetus put it perfectly. Do not say of anything, "I have lost it," but "I have returned it." That shift in perspective changes everything. I learned this lesson painfully when I faced a significant loss. A relationship I thought was unshakable suddenly ended. I clung to it in my mind, replaying every moment, every word, wondering what I could have done differently. But the harder I held on, the more it hurt. It wasn't until I began practicing detachment that I found relief. I reminded myself that this person was never truly mine. They were part of my life for a time, and then, as all things do, they changed course. Accepting that wasn't easy, but it freed me from the constant ache of holding on. Detachment doesn't mean we stop valuing what we have. It means we stop relying on it for our peace. Whether it's a job, a possession, or even a dream, we can cherish it without letting it define us. When you practice detachment, you learn to find joy in the moment without clinging to the idea that it must last forever. That mindset not only brings peace, but also deepens your appreciation for the present. One thing that helped me was reframing how I thought about loss. Instead of seeing it as something being taken from me, I started viewing it as life moving naturally, as it always does. I found comfort in the fact that nothing is truly lost, because nothing is permanent to begin with. This shift wasn't about denying my feelings. It was about softening the grip of fear and finding freedom in acceptance. Another practice I've leaned on is gratitude. When you focus on the joy something brings you now, rather than the fear of losing it, your relationship with it changes. Gratitude anchors you in appreciation instead of anxiety. Whether it's a person, an opportunity, or even something as simple as a sunny day, gratitude lets you experience it fully, without the shadow of attachment. Over time, this practice has helped me build a sense of inner calm that doesn't depend on external things. It's not about being indifferent. It's about understanding that true peace comes from within, not from clinging to what's outside. And when you let go of that grip, you make room for something beautiful, the ability to love freely, deeply, and without fear. That's a kind of freedom I never want to lose. As I embraced the idea of detachment, I noticed something unexpected. The more I let go of the need to control everything, the clearer my mind became. But clarity isn't just about the moment. It's also about understanding the patterns that shape our thoughts and actions over time. That's when I realized how crucial reflection is. Letting go is powerful, but knowing why you hold on in the first place and learning from those moments is what truly helps you grow. Reflection isn't about dwelling on your mistakes or obsessing over what went wrong. It's about gaining insight into your day, your choices, and your mindset. For a long time, I avoided self-reflection because I was scared of what I'd find. I worried it would lead to guilt or regret. But the truth is, reflecting has been one of the most liberating practices I've ever adopted. It's not about judgment, it's about curiosity. What worked today? What didn't? How can I be better tomorrow? These simple questions have been a game changer for me. When I first started reflecting, I kept it small and manageable. At the end of each day, I would sit quietly and think back over the past hours. I'd ask myself, what was a win today, and where did I feel off balance? It felt awkward at first, like I was digging into moments I wanted to forget. But as I stuck with it, I noticed patterns. I realized how often my stress came from rushing through tasks or miscommunicating with others. Seeing that clearly gave me the chance to change it. One of the most impactful tools I've used for reflection is journaling. Writing things down forces you to organize your thoughts. And there's something powerful about seeing your day on paper. I don't write pages and pages, just a few sentences about what stood out, what I handled well, and what I could improve. Some days, my journal is a celebration of small wins. Other days, it's an honest look at where I stumbled, but every entry feels like a step forward. What's beautiful about this practice is that it doesn't just help you understand your past, it shapes your future. By identifying what caused stress today, you can avoid it tomorrow. If I noticed that I felt overwhelmed because I took on too much, I'll remind myself to set clearer boundaries. If I handled a tough conversation with calm and kindness, I'll remember to bring that same energy to the next one. Reflection becomes a guide, helping you navigate life with greater intention. Another thing I've learned through daily reflection is the importance of celebrating progress, no matter how small. There were days I'd think, I didn't do anything special today, but when I took the time to reflect, I'd find little victories. A kind word I said, a moment of patience I showed, or simply sticking to a good habit. These moments build confidence and remind you that growth is happening, even when it feels slow. Reflection has become a nightly ritual for me, a moment of calm to end the day. It's not about striving for perfection, but about cultivating awareness. The more you practice it, the more connected you feel to your own journey. Each day becomes an opportunity to learn, grow, and move forward with clarity. And in that process, you discover a deeper sense of peace, one that comes from knowing yourself and honoring the progress you're making. As I made reflection a daily practice, one thing became abundantly clear. So much of my stress, my worry, and even my frustration didn't come from the situations themselves. It came from how I thought about them. The way I interpreted events shaped how I felt, and those feelings often dictated how I reacted. It was like my thoughts were steering the ship, and all too often they were headed straight for the rocks. That's when I realized I needed to stop letting my thoughts control me and start taking control of them instead. The Stoics teach that external events are neutral. It's our interpretation that gives them power. That was a revelation for me. I used to blame outside circumstances for my emotional ups and downs, A disagreement with a friend, a missed deadline, or even an unkind comment would throw me off balance for hours, sometimes days. But when I started examining those moments, I saw that the real issue wasn't what happened, it was the narrative I attached to it. My thoughts were taking a single moment and turning it into a story of failure, rejection, or catastrophe. Taking control of my thoughts started with awareness. I began paying attention to the stories I was telling myself. When something went wrong, instead of spiraling, I paused and questioned it. Is this true? I'd ask. Is it really as bad as I think? More often than not, the answer was no. For example, if I received criticism at work, my initial thought might be, I'm not good enough. But by pausing, I could reframe it. This is feedback I can use to improve. It doesn't define my worth. Reframing negative thoughts isn't about lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing things clearly, without the emotional weight we often attach to them. One technique that helped me was treating my thoughts like visitors. Some are helpful and worth engaging with, while others need to be shown the door. I learned that I didn't have to believe every thought that crossed my mind. This simple shift gave me a sense of freedom I hadn't felt before. Another key was focusing on what I could control. The Stoics remind us that we have power over our reactions, not over the events themselves. When I felt overwhelmed by a situation, I'd ask myself, what can I do about this? If there was an action I could take, I took it. If not, I worked on letting it go. This mindset not only calmed my thoughts, but also made me feel more empowered. I also started practicing gratitude as a way to counter negative thinking. When my mind got stuck on what was wrong, I made a deliberate effort to focus on what was right. Gratitude didn't erase the challenges, but it shifted my perspective, reminding me that there was always something good to hold on to. Mastering your thoughts doesn't happen overnight, and it's not about controlling them perfectly. It's about building awareness, questioning the stories you tell yourself, and choosing interpretations that serve you rather than harm you. Over time, this practice transforms not just how you think, but how you feel and respond to the world around you. It's a powerful reminder that while you can't always control what happens, you can always control how you think about it. And that's where your true strength lies. As I learned to take control of my thoughts, I realized something else. Even with clarity and reframing, the constant pace of life can overwhelm you if you don't step back now and then. Our minds aren't built to handle endless stimulation without rest, yet we often push ourselves to keep going, as if pausing would make us fall behind. But the truth is, the more I ignored the need to pause, the more I found myself scattered, irritable, and less effective at everything I was trying to do. It became clear that intentional pauses weren't a luxury, they were a necessity. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius spoke about retreating into yourself, especially in stressful moments. That idea struck a chord with me because for so long I thought retreating meant weakness. But I've since learned that stepping back is one of the strongest things you can do. It's not about avoiding life, it's about creating space to meet it with clarity and purpose. When I started practicing intentional pauses, I noticed an immediate difference. It wasn't dramatic, but it was steady. A few minutes here and there to breathe, reflect, or simply exist without doing anything became a kind of mental reset button. These moments gave me a sense of calm that carried over into the rest of my day. It was like clearing the fog from my mind, even if only briefly, so I could see things more clearly. One of the easiest ways I began incorporating pauses was by setting small reminders throughout my day. I'd stop whatever I was doing, close my eyes, and take a few deep breaths. At first, it felt strange, almost unproductive, but those moments became anchors. They pulled me out of the chaos and back into myself. Even a 2-minute break could shift my mindset, turning a frantic afternoon into something manageable. Another powerful way to pause is through solitude. This doesn't mean isolating yourself for hours, but simply taking a moment to be alone with your thoughts. For me, it's as simple as stepping outside and feeling the air on my face, or sitting quietly without my phone. These brief moments of solitude create a kind of mental buffer. They remind me that I'm more than the to-do lists and responsibilities pulling at me. What I've found is that intentional pauses don't just help in the moment. They also improve how you handle the rest of your day. By giving your mind space to settle, you become more focused and less reactive. It's like sharpening an axe before you chop wood. The pause makes the work that follows more effective. Sometimes we resist pausing because we think we can't afford the time. But I've learned that even the busiest days have room for a minute or two of stillness. And those minutes are never wasted. They're investments in your clarity, calm, and ability to handle whatever comes next. These pauses have taught me to value stillness in a way I never did before. They've shown me that stepping back isn't stepping away. It's stepping toward a clearer, calmer version of yourself. And in a world that constantly demands more, creating that space is one of the most powerful acts of self-care you can offer. As I leaned into the practice of intentional pauses, something profound began to surface: clarity. In those moments of stillness, I realized how much of my mental noise was tied to things I wished I had, places I wanted to be, or goals I felt I hadn't yet achieved. Even in the calm, there was this undercurrent of dissatisfaction, a quiet craving for more. That's when I started to understand the transformative power of gratitude. It wasn't just about appreciating what I had, it was about shifting the lens through which I viewed my life. Gratitude is more than saying thank you or feeling a brief sense of appreciation. It's a practice, a mindset, and for me, it became a lifeline. At a time when I felt like nothing was ever enough, I decided to start small. Each morning before the chaos of the day began, I'd take a moment to focus on just one thing I was grateful for. Sometimes it was something as simple as the warmth of my coffee or the way sunlight filtered through the window. And you know what? That one small thought had the power to change the entire tone of my day. What I learned is that gratitude doesn't come naturally when your mind is constantly focused on what's missing. You have to train it, like a muscle. At first it felt awkward, almost forced, to actively think about what was good in my life. But as I kept at it, gratitude started to flow more easily. It began showing up in unexpected moments, during a walk when I noticed how fresh the air felt, or in a conversation when someone's kindness caught me off guard. Gratitude made me more aware of the little things I had been overlooking. One of the most surprising things about practicing gratitude is how it quiets the endless comparison game. I used to get caught up in what others had, thinking I needed to catch up or do more to feel worthy. But when you're truly grateful for what's in front of you, that external noise starts to fade. It's not that you stop striving, it's that you stop attaching your happiness to things outside yourself. Gratitude grounds you in the present, reminding you that there is already so much to value in your life. Another way I've cultivated gratitude is by reflecting on challenges and the lessons they've brought. It might sound strange, but even difficult times can hold something to be thankful for. There have been moments when I struggled, but looking back, those struggles shaped me in ways I couldn't see at the time. Gratitude isn't just about the easy, joyful moments. It's also about finding meaning and growth in the hard ones. This practice has become a daily ritual for me, something I look forward to. Whether it's jotting down a few things in a journal or just pausing during the day to take stock of what's good, it brings a sense of calm that nothing else can. Gratitude shifts your perspective in a way that's hard to put into words. It reminds you that while life will never be perfect, it is always enough. And that simple truth has changed everything for me. As gratitude became a regular part of my life, it helped me see the beauty in the present and shifted my focus away from what I didn't have. But there was something deeper holding me back, an anchor I hadn't yet let go of. It was the past, the mistakes, the moments I wished I could rewrite. Gratitude showed me the value of what I had, but I couldn't fully embrace it until I learned to release the weight of what no longer served me. Letting go of the past isn't easy. It's natural to replay moments in your mind, thinking about what you should have done differently or how things could have turned out if only you'd made another choice. I've spent hours, even days, caught in that loop of regret. But the truth is, holding on to the past doesn't change it. It only holds you back from living fully in the now. One of the most important lessons I learned through Stoicism is that the past is unchangeable. It's done. Epictetus put it so simply: what's done is done. Focus on what's ahead. At first, those words felt almost too blunt, but the more I reflected on them, the more freeing they became. Carrying regret is like dragging a heavy bag everywhere you go. It takes energy, weighs you down, and leaves no room for anything new. Letting go isn't about forgetting or pretending the past didn't happen. It's about learning from it and then moving forward lighter and stronger. I started by identifying what I was holding on to. For me, it was a mix of things: relationships that ended badly, opportunities I didn't take, words I wish I could take back. I wrote them down, not to dwell on them, but to give them a name, to confront them directly. Seeing those regrets on paper made them feel smaller, more manageable. They were no longer this vague, overwhelming cloud hanging over me. They were moments, events, decisions, and they were over. One practice that helped me release those regrets was visualizing them as objects I could let go of. I'd sit quietly, close my eyes, and picture each regret as a balloon in my hand. I'd acknowledge it, thank it for the lesson it taught me, and then let it drift away. It sounds simple, but the act of releasing those balloons was deeply symbolic. Each one left me feeling a little lighter, a little freer. The beauty of letting go is that it makes space for growth. When I stopped fixating on what I couldn't change, I could finally focus on what I could do differently moving forward. Instead of replaying the same old scenarios in my mind, I started asking myself, what did I learn from this? Every mistake became a teacher, and every regret became a stepping stone. Letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's a process, one that requires patience and practice. But with each step, I felt the grip of the past loosening and the clarity of the present sharpening. The weight lifted, and I could see what was truly important, the life in front of me, waiting to be lived fully and freely. That's the power of release. It's not just about what you leave behind, but about what you open yourself up to. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered. We started with the power of radical acceptance, learning to face reality without resistance and free ourselves from the unnecessary frustration of fighting what we can't control. Then we explored mindfulness, anchoring ourselves in the present moment to quiet the noise of regrets and worries. From there, we dived into emotional detachment, loving deeply while letting go freely and embracing the truth that nothing is truly permanent. We moved into the transformative practice of daily reflection, finding lessons in every day and using them to grow. Then came the art of mastering your thoughts, taking control of your mind rather than letting it control you. Intentional pauses taught us the importance of stepping back to reset and find clarity amid life's chaos. From there, we practiced cultivating gratitude, appreciating the small joys that often go unnoticed. And finally, we confronted the power of letting go, releasing the past to make space for peace, growth, and the life waiting ahead. These strategies aren't just ideas, they're tools. Tools to create calm, clarity, and balance in your life. They've worked for me, and I know they can work for you if you commit to practicing them. Life will always bring challenges, but with these principles, you'll have the foundation to face them with strength and grace. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these strategies resonated with you the most? Do you have a practice that helps calm your mind? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your insights might inspire someone else too. And if you found value here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Together, we're building a community of calm, clarity, and wisdom, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Let's keep growing, learning, and finding peace, one step at a time. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.